everyone. It's Darcy Pittman here from the NetApp on NetApp team with our Roving Reporter series. I'm excited to be back today with another installment on a really interesting topic that we haven't really covered before in this series, or really in general for our NetApp on NetApp content, which is, sustainability, and specifically our enterprise fixed asset management program, which I don't know a lot about, which is why I am really excited to have Teresa Ho Sing Loy with me today. So welcome to the channel, Teresa. How are you doing? And tell us a little bit about what you do at NetApp.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm a senior program manager with Global Operations. And as you had mentioned, one of the programs I support is the Enterprise Fixed Asset Management Program. The program is roughly 1 year new. It's a cross-functional program aimed at streamlining the use and management of NetApp-owned assets across the company. Our initial scope was specific to US only, hardware located in the US, transferred only within the US that met NetApp's CapEx threshold. That's the gist.
Yeah, that's great. And, I think it's a super interesting program that I didn't even know existed. And it speaks to, the work that NetApp is doing internally when it comes to sustainability and, these new initiatives, right? As we continue to see this as a very important, thing that we're working on, both at NetApp and just in general, more largely, and that customers are, really paying attention to as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about kind of like the mission and the goals of what you're working on through this program?
Sure. Very high level. It's a very simple mission. Our mission is to reduce CapEx spend by understanding and reducing our carbon footprint. In addition, reducing our order delivery time by repurposing our NetApp hardware. So that's the gist of it, very high level, but there you go.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a great simple explanation for someone like me who doesn't understand all the IT things to understand. So perfect. And, as you mentioned, like this is only, a 1 year old program. So how did it come about and all of that backstory?
Sure. So it's very interesting. Our CFO, Mike Berry, who's our sponsor, basically came up with a repurposing program in his head just by understanding the dollar amount of fixed assets on the books, seeing all the internal procurement requests coming in for new hardware. And he thought if we could better understand the utilization of the hardware we owned, it would allow us to repurpose it and fulfill some of those new requests. So Daddy Warbucks.
Well, it was a great idea, hey, kudos to him, right?
Yeah, from there, our strategy and transformation organization started building the foundation, pulling in various team members, core team members from IT, sales, RMA, engineering. The list goes on. So we had a core team that helped build the foundation, like I said, but it also helped spread the word and the adoption of the program once we went go live.
Mm-hmm. So very cross-functional within that. Yeah, that's great. And, so it sounds like there's kind of a lot of moving pieces in terms of you have all these different assets, different people interested in acquiring them, different, groups wanting to, put assets into the program. So how do you manage all of these different elements?
Sure. We are very lucky to have in-house developers. We use a tool, it's homegrown, NEMS, NetApp Equipment Management System. It basically it houses our virtual pool. Nothing actually moves until there's a request. So logistically, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Each program tags a piece of hardware that goes into this virtual pool. And then once there's a request and the hardware is available, we then work on the actual logistics of shipping it out from the old program to the new program. As I mentioned, we have been focused on the US, but we will be rolling out to APAC and EMEA, which will provide a little bit more complexity, having to understand import-export policies. But we're working with our global trade compliance organization. So we're going to have that down. It'll just be a little bit more complex, but we're looking forward to it to help increase our savings.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so when you're thinking about, kind of that NEMS program, how do you determine who gets what? There's all these different players and different assets.
Yeah, absolutely. So the person who requests the hardware gets it first. However, if there is overlap in requests, There's a form that the requester actually has to fill out to provide justification and revenue generated and all that stuff. So if there is an overlap, we can, based on the information they provide, pick the person, or excuse me, the program that actually needs the hardware the most. So
Yeah, absolutely. Makes perfect sense. And so, thinking about different programs utilizing it, who would you say are the main like consumers of the program, or who is utilizing the program the most or contributing, all those different factors in there?
sure. So NetApp has a lot of internal programs. We have engineering, our customer proof of concept, customer service ops, sales, all these programs. So each program offers a different type of contribution, if you will. So if you take IT, they are very good at using their hardware to end of life. So that end of life hardware may not be something that's desirable for a new build or a new piece of procurement, if you will. So they're basically more of a consumer than they are contributor of assets. But then we have our customer proof of concept organization that that also is our large shoppers, but they contribute back and forth. It depends on the program and the purpose of what they do here at NetApp. Engineering is known just, they pull in a lot of hardware, they break it down, pull out pieces, and it's something IT doesn't do. They purchase and use the system as it comes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super interesting to think about, especially, at NetApp on NetApp, we are, of course, like usually very focused on IT use cases. What is IT doing within NetApp? And so I think it's really fascinating to learn that we utilize our resources to end of life, right? And that decreases our carbon footprint as opposed to buying new fixed assets every single year, right? I mean, it's good for the business bottom line, but also good for sustainability. And so that, and again, that IT is also consuming, right? Utilizing what you're offering with repurposing these fixed assets as well, as opposed to buying brand new. How would you say, your program in specific contributes to the larger NetApp mission of, increasing our sustainability?
Well, this specific program, I think, satisfies our environmental, reducing our carbon footprint, and an economic value, of course, by reducing our spend. I think when people think of sustainability, they think of environmental, but there's also two other aspects to corporate sustainability. There's economics and cultural sustainability efforts going on. So within NetApp, I think our program especially fits in with the economic and environmental aspect and reducing our carbon footprint. But what's great about NetApp, it's a very large organization, and it has always pursued the best interest of the employees, the environment, and of course, I need to have an economic sustainability effort to increase longevity of their existence, if you will. So with that, I know we have a new Wichita, Kansas facility. 100% of that electricity comes from wind energy, for instance. Data centers, our IT internal support has reduced their physical footprint by 65% over the globe. So in that, there's also savings and again, reducing that carbon footprint that we're looking for. So, and then lastly, I know 99% of our hardware, it's e-wasted, resold, or returned to service. And again, that falls within my program and repurposing. So
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, all of those statistics, we don't necessarily hear enough about the on the ground things that is really doing. And that's incredible work, both, from your team and all the other teams working on this. And so can you tell me a little bit about the results that you're seeing, especially considering like this is a fairly new program? How has it been going so far?
sure. We've only been live roughly 1 year and a couple months. So within that time, we have a total CapEx savings of a hair under 8.5 million. So for being fairly new, I think that's a great start. And with our planned expansion to APAC and EMEA and to include third-party hardware, we're looking to drive that savings even more.
Yeah, that's incredible. So it's really a win-win situation. It's saving the business money and then also doing right by the environment, sustainability, and all those things. So that's great.
The program, again, like I said, being new, we have a lot of continuous improvement efforts going on. You understand other programs, what they need, what they use, what they have. So a lot of it has been a fact-finding mission and partnering and understanding every single internal organization that we have here at NetApp.
Well, that's a big initiative because it's a big company. There's a lot of players.
Yeah.
So kudos on that. And so you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but given it's only a year old program, is there anything major coming down the pipeline? I know you mentioned kind of expanding into new geos. Anything else that you're looking to develop?
Sure. So as the name indicates, the name of the program, the Enterprise Fixed Asset Management Program, our initial focus was on our internal NetApp owned fixed assets, right? But we are now partnering with our inventory management team, and the goal there is to ensure we maximize our efforts and efficiencies across the globe, ensuring that we utilize all of the hardware that we have, regardless of it being a fixed assets or an inventory. So it's going to be an end-to-end process. We're looking to understand the cradle to grave process and workflow of all of our hardware and how it's used.
Yeah. And I mean, you're already seeing such great results. So I'm sure that's only going to continue, and you're going to have so much savings and, repurpose all this equipment for the better. And yeah, I mean, it's great that you're here working on this program. And I think more people need to know about it, which is why I'm excited to, that we had you on and are sharing this program and this story with, our audience. And I think it's a great opportunity to showcase, what we're doing internal to NetApp to really drive that sustainability that, some of these things aren't necessarily like flashy. They're, real committed on the ground things that we're doing. And I think that's fantastic to hear about. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing what you're working on. Really glad you could be here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. See you all next time.